Well, the government is officially panicking. We are now hearing that President Biden has just days left to decide whether or not he will continue as normal. Maybe he's going to resign and step down entirely, or the most likely option is President Biden is going to withdraw from the upcoming election. We have just 119 days from today before November 5th. That is Election Day 2024, which means we don't have a lot of time, but we need answers immediately. Today I'm going to break down what's going on, what lawmakers are saying, what many people are wondering, and what we could see in the near future. So I'll break all this down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So today, I don't want to do a lot of talking. I want to show you what is happening. This is an article from AP News. It says Biden's support on Capitol Hill grimly uncertain. A 7th Democrat says he should drop out. Now, I want to be very clear on something. Just because a Democrat comes forward and says, President Biden, thank you for your service, thank you for your time, however, you should bow out gracefully. It does not mean he has to. It does not even mean that that's something that he needs to consider. It's only 7 people, but it's that 7th Democrat that is coming out publicly at this time. That's the reason. If they were doing this privately, that's fine, but publicly, that puts a lot of pressure on President Biden himself. Now, I want to show you something. Listen to this right here.
Republicans currently hold a slim majority in the House, and Democrats are in control of the Senate. But there are major questions, Gianno, on how a continued Biden candidacy could affect the balance of power in Congress. One headline says Democrats could be faced with losing both chambers if Biden runs. As it stands, Republicans are favored to win the Senate, but the party will face much stiffer competition in the House, where Democrats are projected to prevail. But Biden's inclusion on the ticket, given his recent unpopularity, could flip the odds in the GOP's favor.
Now, we're going to listen to a little bit more of that in just a second, but that's the big thing. That's the whole reason why this demand of Biden stepping down and withdrawing his ticket. It's because Democrats are concerned that if they are having President Biden at the top of their ticket, they may lose. And it may be a big loss. Let's keep listening.
Democrats weighing in on that.
There are concerns with the impact on down ballot races if the president doesn't do well.
This may be untenable for them to all, want to run under a Biden ticket, because it's going to drag everybody else down.
Simple as that. If they run on a President Biden ticket because of his cognitive state, because of what's been happening recently, that may drag every other Democrat down. And this is the problem. Now, the biggest issue, though, isn't what President Biden is really doing. It's what does it look like from the American people? How are they perceiving all this information? What are the polls looking like? What are donors doing? Right? Those are big ones. What are elected officials doing at this time, and which side are they on? Well, that's what I want to show you. This right here is a hypothetical 2024 ballot test. You can see former President Donald Trump is in red. He's been doing fairly well, fairly stable, right? It's the same thing. President Biden hasn't been doing horrible. It's been between 43 and 45 for quite some time, right? But here's the thing. Recently, we have seen this number slide, where less people, less voters, are willing to vote for President Biden. Now they're starting to start and support Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Gavin Newsom, even Michelle Obama. They're going that route. So again, if the polls continue to slide and it is going against President Biden, even if former President Donald Trump's numbers remain the same, the problem is now all the other Democrats that could potentially get votes, they're going to start to get votes. The concern, President Trump may win because President Biden won't have enough support. But that's just the first thing. The biggest issue is how do we get more support? How do Democrats go and drum up more support for President Biden? Well, you have to raise money. It's called fundraising. Well, here's the issue. According to CNBC, it says no one is picking up the phone. Joe Biden's fundraising confronts new hurdles after debate. And in the key points, it says President Joe Biden's fundraising operation is starting to face some new hurdles after the June debate. Some of Biden's campaign bundlers have paused their efforts to raise money because they are unsure if he will be the party's nominee. Other Biden donors have pulled back because they believe the president should drop out of the race. I told you guys this over the weekend. Actually, it might have been last week. I said that we are starting to hear from many prominent business owners, many key figures to the Biden administration or to the Biden campaign, and they've all said they're not going to donate another dollar. They want to wait. They don't just want to give money to President Biden. He drops out of the race and he can do whatever he wants with it. No, they want to make sure that if they support him, that he's sticking to this and staying in the race. But at this time, nobody really knows. So that's a big one. And then the next one. Do we see key Democrats, these are elected officials, okay? Do we see some of these people decide to push and get President Biden out? At this time, the answer is yes. If elected Democrats demand President Biden withdraw and step down, that could be the kicker. If the polling numbers drop, which again, President Biden has different speaking engagements that he has planned here very soon, and if he's starting to look bad, or worse than what he's looking like now, if he's still stumbling over his words, can't decide or can't figure out what he's doing or the point he's trying to make, well, guess what? The American people may decide, you know what? We don't need this guy. This is not the guy we need running our country for the next 4 years. He's really started to fall apart over the last 6 months, but if we give him another 4 years, how bad will he look then? That's the question. So again, if more Democrats decide this isn't the guy we need, if the polling numbers continue to drop and donors pull out, that would be devastating. This is why the government is panicking, because we don't know who is potentially going to lead the country moving forward. As of right now, some are asking, I talked about this over the past week, some are asking President Biden to completely resign. Not withdraw his ticket from the upcoming election, resign as the President of the United States. That's what some are asking. But you know what? President Biden's not going to do that, because he said the voters voted him in to do the job that he's doing. He's done a good job, so he's going to stick to it. Whether or not that's the truth doesn't matter, but that's what he believes. So President Biden isn't going to resign. Well, this is where Congress could come in and, make him step down. But Congress isn't going to do that. Democrats would never do that, especially less than 120 days from the next election. That would create massive chaos, and Democrats would easily lose the upcoming election. So, at this time, that's where we stand. But I want to play one last thing for you. Listen to this.
If President Biden does end up leaving the race, Biden campaign co-chair and South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn said last week that if that were to happen, the party should hold a mini primary. Longtime Clinton advisor James Carville goes even further than that, calling for a, quote, super democratic process, one where former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton pick 8 candidates, including VP Harris. Carville suggesting holding 4 town halls, 1 each in the South, the Northeast, the Midwest, and the West. He also says Democratic delegates could further stress test the candidates. New York Times opinion columnist Ezra Klein with this, beginning, quote, if Biden steps aside, the Democratic Party has 2 options, a coronation or a contest. A coronation of Harris would repeat the mistakes that brought the party to crisis in the first place. What Democrats denied themselves over the past few years was information. If Biden had run in a competitive primary race, including debates, Democrats would have seen earlier how he would perform. If Biden had routinely sat for extended, tough interviews and given news conferences, his shortcomings would have been clear.
That's how simple it was. That if President Biden would have done the primaries, or if Democrats would have made him do it, the thing that we would have seen is, how bad is he looking? We would have known this already. So that's something that I thought was very interesting that they brought that up, because again, that's what people have been saying for some time. So I will leave you with that. But again, as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.